Bolivia, South America. Here, 45 miles west of La Paz, isolated high in the Andes Mountains, lie the mysterious ancient ruins of Puma Punku. Spread across a desert plateau at an altitude over 12,000 feet, the megalithic stones found here are among the largest on the planet, measuring up to 26 feet long and weighing more than 100 tons each.
These are the mysterious ruins of Puma Punku, nearly 13,000 feet in the Altiplano of Bolivia. What you have here are massive blocks of granite scattered like some kids' toy blocks around the site. It's like some giant cataclysm just wiped out this entire area. Archaeologists are baffled by what Puma Punku was, how it looked, and what the purpose of this enormous structure would have been.
Mainstream scientists believe the site was originally constructed about 2,000 years ago. But in 1945, archaeologist Arthur Poznansky proposed that Puma Punku was much, much older. By examining the structures and what he believed were their original alignment with the stars, he dated the ruins to 15,000 BC.
Arthur Poznansky was a researcher, he was part Bolivian. He had worked at the site for many decades, and he concluded that the site must have been built about 17,000 years ago by studying the archaeoastronomy of that particular site.
We don't know how old Puma Punku is. We have had some circumstantial dating, but we have been unable to date the stones of Puma Punku themselves. They could be thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years old. We don't know.
I think the fascinating thing about Puma Punku is how did these structures get built? We're talking about stone that is 25 feet high, stone that is hundreds of tons.
Puma Punku is so unique in the way that it was constructed and shaped and positioned that it is the most intriguing ancient site on the planet. Of all the places I've ever visited, Puma Punku is the one that I go back to time and again because no one can solve the mystery.
Mainstream scholars believe the andesite blocks found at Puma Punku were formed by hand with primitive stone tools. But some researchers point to the intricate stonework as evidence of the use of advanced precision technology.
One of the amazing things here at Puma Punku is the precision of the blocks. You can see with this block of granite that it's really been cut at very accurate right angles. Not only do these granite blocks have precision corners, but they also have these difficult drill holes that are going right through the rock.
But how could such primitive people, living perhaps tens of thousands of years ago, have produced such flawless stonework? Might the ancient builders of Puma Punku have fabricated the megalithic stones with advanced technology? Technology of an otherworldly origin, as ancient astronaut theorists believe.
You know, Brian, this is one of the most interesting and unusual stones here at Puma Punku. It's got these perfect right angles. And then each of these small drill holes are basically evenly spaced along this routed groove. To me, it's clear that power tools have been used on this unusual block of stone here.
Well, exactly, and this surface is as smooth as a tabletop, like in your kitchen. There's no wave to it or anything. This was machined. But who machined it? It's an astonishing piece of work, and how anyone could think that primitive human beings could have done this. You know, it's just crazy. If anything looks like ancient aliens, it's this stone.
Puma Punku is a large temple complex located on a high plateau in Bolivia. Mainstream archaeologists date the site from approximately 200 BC. The people who lived here had neither a written language nor the wheel, yet somehow they built one of the world's most complex structures. Ancient alien theorists view Puma Punku as clear proof of extraterrestrial influence.
The ruins we find at Puma Punku are simply extraordinary. Puma Punku defies logic.
The interest of Puma Punku is not so much that the individual stones slotted together perfectly, but the fact that the stones as such are of such tremendous design that it requires concepts of mathematics which are far beyond anything we are actually using right now. Yet somehow in the past, somebody has made that for a specific purpose, and in a way which even computer programs today would kind of go, how is this possible?
In the highlands of Bolivia, Puma Punku, some of these blocks are over 40 to 50 tons each. What can you tell us about this?
Boy, they had their stone cutting abilities, you know, pretty well fine-tuned for 5,000 years old. I mean, it's almost unbelievable. But these cutting planes that they have on here are very impressive. And some of the incised cuts, see, like in here, all these interior cuts, very hard to do. I mean, it would be difficult for us with our equipment to get that kind of precision.
Let's talk a little bit about inside boxes.
Ooh, I was afraid you were going to pull something like this on me. That is a hell of a piece of work. I mean, if we were to do something like that today, we use what they have, these computer-driven CNC machines, which have diamond tips, and you have a template that, you know, the computer follows, and even then, it may not come out as perfect.
Because even though you can tell that obviously this piece broke off, nowhere in here can you see any imperfection. It's like, and by the way, when you're there, if you go with your finger over these edges and you put a little pressure on your fingertip, you can cut yourself. This is how sharp the edges are.
But where could the ancient peoples have developed such technology? Is it really possible that extraterrestrial visitors provided different construction methods and tools?
When I saw these blocks, I didn't really think that they were cut. The first thing really that I thought of was this appears very similar to Frank Lloyd Wright's textile block system of construction, which he used in his California houses in the early 1920s. Now what he did was he took concrete, poured it into molds.
There actually are ancient Incan legends that suggest that they had the capability of softening the stone. At Sacsayhuaman, for example, we find these gigantic stone blocks, gigantic stone walls, where it looks as if those stones were molten, put into place, and then the stone hardened again.
Bolivia, South America. Here lie the ruins of Puma Punku, a mysterious temple complex located in the ancient city of Tiwanaku. It is believed to have been built about 2,000 years ago. The year he published his best-selling book, Chariots of the Gods, author Erich von Däniken made a pilgrimage to this archaeological site for more proof of his controversial theory that extraterrestrial beings had visited Earth in the distant past.
Puma Punku is in the highland of Bolivia. You stand there and you are absolutely shocked. There are gigantic platforms laying around. At that time, in 1968, there was no archaeological work done up there.
When Erich von Däniken arrived at Puma Punku, here he found evidence, clearly, of lost high technology. We see laser perfection drilled holes, stone that has been somehow liquefied or almost kind of made vitrified and stuck together. This is not possible without the use of high technology.
Erich was able to see these H blocks. They're big granite blocks, all articulated and cut, as if they were pre-manufactured, and in such a way that they would fit together and create these giant walls. It was such a high-tech kind of construction that it boggled everyone's mind.
So what we have in Puma Punku is the traditional, what I would say, Erich von Däniken tackling archaeology. There is, within the methodology of how these stones were constructed, a certain degree of difficulty which our ancestors simply never attained in the surrounding landscape of Tiwanaku. The stone carvers basically told him that it was almost impossible or extremely difficult to create these artifacts, and that specifically why they would be doing it is something which really defies explanation.
Another aspect of Puma Punku that captivated von Däniken was the legend of its creation, as put forward by the indigenous people of the region.
The population living there are called the Aymara, and the Aymara themselves say that they had no involvement in building Puma Punku. In fact, when you ask them who built Puma Punku, they will point to the sky and they will say, Los dioses, the gods.
In Puma Punku, they say, the gods constructed the place in one night. This makes sense. You have an extraterrestrial crew, they come down to Earth. So they construct with their tools just something which we would call today a basic camp. They behave themselves like ethnologists would do. They learn, they teach a little the humans, they learn their language. One day they disappear, their job is over. They take all their instruments back to the mother spaceship, and left are only a few ruins of the basic camp.
Puma Punku is a field of stone ruins that both thrills and stimulates the imaginations of ancient alien theorists.
In my opinion, the most significant piece of evidence that we have in this entire ancient astronaut puzzle is Puma Punku in the highland of Bolivia. While the pyramids at Giza are incredible feat of achievement, compared to Puma Punku, the pyramids are child play. Logic does not exist at Puma Punku because there we have megalithic structures which just lie about this entire site as if ripped apart by some sort of a great force.
The blocks of Puma Punku were so finely cut that they once perfectly interlocked, like the pieces of an elaborate puzzle. But with the nearest quarry over 10 miles away, how did these colossal stones, some weighing hundreds of tons, even get here?
We are talking about the place 4,000 meters over sea level. That means there are no trees up there, which you could use for rollers. Nothing grows except a few grasses and bushes.
I have stood in front of many monuments. However, Puma Punku takes the crown because what we find there is so inexplicable, so inachievable, that the question remains, how was it done and for what purposes? Mainstream archaeologists say that Puma Punku was built by the Aymara Indians. And we would all have to agree that in order to build something like Puma Punku, you need writing, you need planning, and you need some sort of a idea where which piece goes and how it ultimately all fits together. But there is one thing that all the mainstream archaeologists agree upon, that the Aymara didn't have any writing. So how is it possible that they built all of this without plans?
What's really amazing, and why the ancient astronaut theorists are so drawn to Puma Punku and Tiwanaku, is that the quality of the stonework and the immense size of these blocks is so incredible and perfect that there's actually evidence of machining, and that they were using machine tools to cut these blocks.
One of these platforms is 800 tons, and they are so smoothly polished. You have some stone, megalithic stones, with grooves which are just a few millimeters inside, which definitely cannot be made with Stone Age chisels. It doesn't work with Stone Age chisels, so there is another technology behind it.
The lines cut into these rocks are exactly straight and precisely the same depth from one end to the other.
It's as if only master builders were allowed to work there, because everything is so precise, everything is so perfect. You wonder how any of this was even possible. One of the most intriguing things there is that the stones that were used there aren't sandstone, they're granite and diorite. The only stone that's harder than diorite is diamond. So the only way that this could have been achieved is if the tools were tipped with diamonds.
American professors who were up there with their computer and modern measurements, they were really shocked. In their literature, they say it is impossible to reconstruct Puma Punku. It's absolutely impossible.
But is it really difficult to believe that ancient peoples could have so precisely carved these stones, or could build such an incredibly intricate structure from them?
If it was ancient astronauts teaching them these building techniques, why don't we see just perfect, almost skyscraper-like vertical edifices? Everything was all pyramid-like. Stone cutting techniques have been invented and reinvented and independently invented all over the world. If you think of yourself as a god king and you want to have a structure built that's going to last thousands of years, it's much better to build it out of perfectly fitting stones without mortar that degrades and decays and has to be maintained. So we see mortarless structures, megalithic structures, all over the world.
You have an anomaly here where, on one hand, these people are supposed to be very primitive. They're just one step out of the Stone Age. Yet, what they're doing are things that we couldn't even do today, apparently, or would have extreme difficulty. And that is building with these giant blocks of stone, perfectly fitting them together with other blocks, interlocking them.
The ancient people of our time on this planet truly saw strange things. They witnessed bizarre events. But those stories, other than in depictions and some artwork and things like that, they're gone for some reason. They're just gone. But left behind are incredible things that we have that make you wonder, how in the heck were these things built? Those are great mysteries, and I think one of the things that keeps people just continuing to push for the answers are the fact that these things are so out there that they can't figure it out.